to The Writer's Dream. My name is Linda Maria Frank, and I am the author of Annie Tillery Mysteries. The Writer's Dream is a forum where authors can talk about how they write their books, how they publish their books, and how they market their books. We have a Facebook page by the name of The Writer's Dream, and we'd love to answer your questions. So please, if you have questions, go on the Facebook page and ask the questions, and we will answer them. Today's guest is Lois Kipnis, and she is the author of Together We Can Improvise, and It Can Always Get Worse. So, Lois, tell us about yourself.
Right, and also the very first book, which everything is backstory to this, was Have You Ever? Bringing Literature to Life Through Creative Dramatics. Well, I started out, I was a theater ed major, and started out, I taught high school speech, drama, English, directed the high school plays, and I did that for 4 or 5 years. And then I was a stay-at-home mom for a while, and slowly, as I went back into the field, the full-time high school positions no longer existed. I would do a workshop on Saturdays after school, and eventually began to go into the classrooms, K through 6, and work in the classrooms in residencies as an artist in residence. And of course, everything at that point became improvisational, and that's when I started to really work with improvisation in the classroom. And I also began to see that working in the classroom, not just to work and teach skills and acting with young children, but I began to see the need for and how drama connected and was integrated into the curriculum. And drama then became very much a tool to teach other subjects. I probably should stop just to define improvisation, since all the books deal with improvisation. Even the play Things Can Always Be Worse is an outgrowth of improvisational theater and is improvisational still in spirit.
Having been a teacher, I think in terms of improvisation and teaching, back in the old days, we don't want our students improvising. We want them to do everything in a lockstep fashion, but we don't do that anymore, do we?
Well, that's... What improvisation accomplishes for the whole child is incredible. But basically, you're creating on the spot. You are composing, creating spontaneously. In drama, for example, I always love to start with a very simple, there are 2 students, and one is a child. You're a child. Your friend's dog just had puppies. Friend is going to give you one free. You want the puppy. Parent does not. That's all you know. Improvise. So on your feet, you're seeking possibilities, you're exploring alternatives. Pretty please doesn't work. You give reasons, you make deals, you improvise, you create on the spot.
You problem solve.
You're problem solving. You're problem solving. And all of the books have grown out of that belief that the more we really engage children at an early age in improvisations, whether it be vocal, instrumental, drama, creative movement, whatever it is, they are exploring possibilities.
It's interesting because I truly believe that the American philosophy of education is to enable students to be creative. We sometimes accomplish that, we sometimes do not, but I have a cousin who is president of a university down south, and he visits China often. And they have an exchange program, and the people at the Chinese universities are always asking, how do we teach our kids to be creative? Because although the Chinese are very good at copying things, the Americans are the ones who improvise the technology for the most part. It isn't that we do it all, but we are a very improvising society as far as technology goes. Now, where does that come from? It has to come from the educational system.
Well, that's what we're trying to do here in all of the books, is to really get children to improvise. And so
how did you get into writing books?
Right, so what happened is the more that I went into the classrooms, and I started doing teacher workshops, in-service courses, how to use drama as a tool to teach, how to bring literature to life through drama. And I was in Kings Park at a residency with a gifted program, and it was Marilyn Gilbert was the teacher. And she really started to see how wonderful it was to enrich and to bring drama into the classroom. So back in the 80s, she said to me, I think we should write a book together. I said, okay. So the Have You Ever was the outgrowth of that I co-authored with Marilyn. And we decided that what classroom teachers needed was a very simple, almost scripted dialogue to take them through a creative dramatic lesson, so that if they've never, ever done drama before, they would feel comfortable. And we kept doing workshops. And the more we did it, the more teachers were just thriving on this. So that was the start. And then my favorite became story improvisation, where we take a story and just develop it into a piece for performance, but not set. And Things Can Always Be Worse, which was the one-act play that I had published, was really an outgrowth of years of improvising that folktale in the classrooms with teachers. I did it with all ages. And I said, you know, maybe I should take all the best little pieces of improvisation and just kind of freeze it into a one-act play, still improvisational in spirit. And that's what that is, because everywhere it goes is a little ad lib. You could add characters as Mendel's walking through town, and you could do it with 8 people. You could do it with whatever. So that was the play that came out of all the years of improvising.
So I'd like you to go into the book and talk about how it's organized and how it helps teachers.
Right.
But I'd also like to read the first sentence of your introduction.
These are the two Together We Can Improvise,
right,
which is the most recent.
It says, Together We Can Improvise evolves from the author's beliefs in the importance of developing improvisational skills at an early age and the need for accessible lessons that ensure that students of diverse abilities and learning styles can actively participate. So this is really, really feeds into how educational theory and practice have evolved. I don't know whether it's carried out with all the testing programs we have and whatnot, but it's the idea of interactive, student-centered lessons that connect with our culture, because our culture is defined by more or less our tales and folklores and literature, and come up with lessons that students, as you said, of all abilities can somehow participate in. I think it's a great idea.
Well, and this is for K through 3, and then this grades 4 through 6. I co-authored this with Louise Rogers, who's a jazz vocalist educator, and Dr. Kim McCord, who is out at Illinois State University, who does improvisational instrumental with younger kids. At one point, I left the field of being artist in residence and was director for arts and education for Friends of the Arts. And for the 9 years I was there, I would bring artists into the school, and Kim and Louise were 2 of the artists that I brought in. And the last year before I retired, we were working at the Henry Viscardi School, and that was for students with physical disabilities. And one day, Kim was working in the school, and she said, I think the 3 of us should write a book. And I said, that's a great idea, because we just all so much believed in the value of improvisation and of taking fables, folktales, stories, themes, and just bringing it to life and just exploring all the possibilities and just the paths it takes everyone to. We have really found that what happens is students are motivated. They're motivated to read more. They're motivated to write more. There's just an excitement about learning that's generated.
Yes, I agree.
And I had a residency for many years with self-contained special ed classrooms. And these were 5th graders who really, some of them not even at reading level. And we would dramatize and act out Pandora's Box, Hercules. They were going to the librarian and asking her for more Greek myths. And that's the power of it all too.
So tell us about how the book is organized.
Right, okay. The K through 3 has 3 units. There's a fable, Tortoise and the Hare, one on environments, and then there's one on the coqui, the little tiny tree frog in Puerto Rico. And grade 4 through 6 has a unit on a folktale, It Could Always Be Worse, and Shakespeare's Macbeth, and Pandora's Box, a Greek myth. And if I can just, my book is so marked up. It's organized, every unit is organized the same way. It starts with, here we go. It starts where we list our objectives, and then, am I okay here with seeing it? The standards that it meets, the materials needed, prior knowledge, and every unit has an introduction. So it's just a very simple thing for the teacher to focus the class on, or a quick instruction for the teacher. And then there are improvisational warm-ups. There's a warm-up 1, warm-up 2. Some have 3 warm-ups. Some have, this one has 7 warm-ups.
This is to get the kids into the idea of
right.
how to do it?
Right. It's to generate, it's just to warm them up. Exercises, how to use, if they're doing the Shakespeare, how to use their voice to be expressive and say, get feelings across. But the important thing about the book is the connection, because where is the warm-up for drama? Then the vocal connects in, and then the instrumental connects in, just to that one exercise. Then we go to warm-up 2, drama, vocal, instrumental, and then we get, of course, to the core activities later on.
For each one of these, you've composed a song, the vocal and the instrumental.
No, it's all improvisational. It's improvisational, but there is a CD in the back of the book, so that when Louise is introducing them to scat, there's a wonderful in The Tortoise and the Hare, animal scat tease, because it's about teasing.
What's scat? Not everybody knows.
Nonsense syllables of the jazz singer.
Tisket a tasket.
You know, this Scooby-Dooby-Doo, you know.
Yellow basket.
Right. It's the nonsense syllables. So there's a CD at the end, too, so that the instrumental is set up with instructions on how to get the students to improvise using found objects, using Orff instruments, using the xylophones. And then there'll be a little bit of an example in the CD.
So the kids are actually composing the songs and composing the music.
They are improvising.
That's great.
They are improvising. Everything is about improvising and bringing it all to life and the connection to it.
So I am intrigued by your use of Macbeth.
There you are. Okay.
So how do the kids get into Macbeth? Do they have to read Macbeth?
No.
I can't imagine
well,
I can't imagine a fourth grader reading Macbeth.
Ultimately, they are so motivated that they will. But we set it up, for example, the first one, we wanted them to just, the first scene of where the witches come in, double, toil and trouble. And we wanted them to explore all the possibilities. How do you use your voice? So the drama, there were warm-ups like, how would you say, someone stepped on your foot? And we give the teacher several examples. You're eating a nice, cool ice cream on a very hot day. How would you recite Humpty Dumpty? You just heard the news, you can't believe it. Just to free the voice so that you're not just speaking words, but you're giving some meaning to the words. You're the queen who's furious that nobody saved him. And then she picks up on that, Louise, in the vocal. All right, for the warm-up, and she has a little stirring our brew, and you can see there's just a little thing of music, and then there's a CD musical thing, which they improvise. She has 3 different voices, so that it's explored that way. And then we take just a few scenes and the outline of the plot of that scene. And the improvisations are Macbeth and Banquo have just, they've heard the prophecy of the witches. They're walking home, improvise. What do you think they're saying to each other? What do you think Macbeth is thinking in his head? So that there's that improvisation, and it builds on that.
All right, I'm a supervisor of a school district. Okay, superintendent of a school district, and you're trying to sell this program to me, and all that's going on in my head is what part of the Common Core does this appeal to? Which standards are we dealing with here, and what test can we get ready for? So what would you say to him? Me?
Well, when we wrote the book, it was the national standards, and so we have addressed at the beginning of each unit which standards in theater and which standards in music.
I'm beginning to think that if I go buy an ice cream cone, I'm going to have to defend it by telling which standards I'm...
Well, there's an exercise in here in The Tortoise and the Hare on slow and how would you eat an ice cream cone, slowly versus quickly, etc.
Okay, so you actually are...
The thing is, you are really, when you are improvising and when you're working with children and bringing stories to life, you're developing all those skills that they need. You are developing listening skills, speaking skills. You are motivating them to write. There's almost every unit in here, whatever the exercise is, leads to writing. And you know,
Well, it's reading, writing, and listening, isn't it?
that's it. I mean,
All of
there's,
it is reading, writing, and listening.
Right. I mean, there's one section in the environment, and it's just very quickly, which I think is a nice example of how the three connect. And I think the important thing, too, that has to be realized, we wrote this book. You do not have to do the whole unit. Might take you a year. You might just pick one exercise. It might be a drama exercise. It might be a little vocal exercise. And you might just do that. And that's fine. This one, for example, this is the environment where they're creating and describing new environments, and this starts in drama. And I'd like to read it just so that you get the feel for how user-friendly, and that was our goal. It says, have the class sit in a circle and tell them they're going to think about a place they've never visited, a place that does not exist they'd like to create. Would you like to go to a jungle underwater, a cloud, a land of feathers, etc.? And you know, they close their eyes and they imagine through the five senses, which is very important to get for details in writing. What's the climate? How do people travel on foot? A magic leaf, a magic carpet, bike. So we're giving the teacher the way in which to present it if they need that comfort zone. So one student starts with, you're not going to believe where I just went. And the class responds, where did you go? And the student describes the environment in detail. Or you can do it as a circle story where you start, the next person adds on and on and on, leading to writing. And then, of course, in vocal, she picks that up and goes with the same concept. And so, you know, I think that what we need to really think about always when we're doing drama, when a child is in a story, acts out a story, let's just say Pandora's box, the Greek myth, that child understands the structure of that story. They're in that story. They understand the characters because they've been role-playing all throughout the unit, you know, why that character makes choices. They're stepping into the shoes of characters, and they understand a story. They understand the plot, the structure. They understand theme. You know, there's an old Chinese proverb, and I live by that. Tell me I will forget. Show me I might remember, but involve me and I understand. Mm-hmm. So that when we finish acting out a myth with students, I then have them write original myths, be it in groups, and act them out. I can't tell you the wonderful stories I have gotten out of it because they own a story, they understand it. The shyest of children, I can't tell you, every comment I get from teachers after I've ever worked in the classroom is, I never thought that child was creative, expressive, could write, could add details. And it's all from the on-the-feet improvisation.
Okay, now how do you explain to a teacher how to fit this into their curriculum in the fourth grade when they have to take the state tests at the end of the fourth grade? And you know, the big controversy in education right now is teaching to the test and putting all creative ideas behind and just teaching to that test. So how can you defend putting this into your curriculum?
I think there are a few things there, and that's a whole topic probably for another day. But for one thing, this is written for the drama teacher, the music teacher, vocal teacher, and classroom teacher, in the hopes, of course, that they would, you know, all be integrated. So if you're doing in your classroom a fable, whatever it is that you're studying and that they must know for what part of the curriculum, if you communicate, that's what we're